The crisis facing the Indian Ocean island of Mauritius dramatically worsened last week. For the first time in its history, armed militarized police were deployed against peaceful protesters in the capital city. This follows attacks on freedom of expression and freedom of movement in the Indian Ocean island country since the major oil spill last summer. Until recently, Mauritius was viewed as a politically and economically stable Singapore of Africa. While this may initially be dismissed as small island politics, there was nothing ordinary about the week's events. It should be viewed in the broader context of how the weakening of the multilateral system and the international agenda of the outgoing U.S. president has allowed the rise of authoritarian governments around the world, who are using the power of unregulated technology and erosion of independent institutions to suppress civil and human rights globally. The last 4 years of the Trump presidency has allowed governments in most regions of the world to pass increasingly repressive media laws, use technologies that infringe on civil rights without appropriate safeguards, such as face recognition cameras, hollow out previously independent institutions, such as central banks and electoral commissions, use Silicon Valley tech giants like Facebook and Google's own rules to permit unregulated invasive mass surveillance against populations and dissenting voices, all with the aim of remaining in power, amid a widespread increase in large-scale corruption around the world. Mauritius provides a clear case example of this rapid descent into authoritarianism, that is also being seen around the world. The international fight for civil rights, well-functioning democratic institutions, and a more relevant multilateral system will be, by far, along with addressing the climate crisis, the greatest foreign policy challenge for President-elect Biden's incoming Secretary of State, Antony Blinken. Going back to a pre-Trump era will not be sufficient. Blinken will need to build back better, coming out of both the coronavirus pandemic and one of the darkest periods in U.S. history, as President-elect Biden has described this week's events. Multilateral institutions, such as the United Nations, need to be brought out of their 70-year slumber and rapidly into the 21st century to face up to the big global challenges of the next decade and beyond. Thursday's heavily militarized deployment in Mauritius was designed to intimidate and prevent unarmed protesters who have been demanding the government resign over its handling of the oil spill and a series of corruption cases that have now rocked the nation. This is the third time since the oil spill in August that protesters have been suppressed by the police force in Mauritius. 2 large protests were permitted on August 29 and September 12 before the clampdowns.